You're listening to the JD Rucker Show. Let's begin. I've long said that January 6th was, of course, a psyop that was designed to do three things. Number one is supposed to go after President Trump. That's obvious. Number two is supposed to stifle any opposition to the results of the 2020 election. And number three, it was supposed to stifle us, to quash us, to make us self-censor, so to speak, to make it to where we are neutered. And we're neutering ourselves based upon, the deep state is coming after us. We shouldn't go to this protest. We shouldn't fight against this. We got to keep a low profile. The FBI's out to get us. We don't want to end up in the gulag for months or years, just like the January 6th political prisoners are. And it has worked. I mean, we have seen a sharp decline in the amount of patriotic, I call them outbursts, because that's really what it is. We need more outbursts, and we're getting fewer of them. We need more people to protest, and we're seeing fewer protests. We need more people to be vocal about the various tyrannical evils that are being perpetrated by our own government against us, and yet it's getting stifled. And that was the intention. Obviously going after Trump, obviously trying to nip the contention against the 2020 election results. Those were the obvious results, but this was the big one, making you and me too scared. Let's face it, that's what it is. Too scared to go out and protest, to engage in our constitutionally protected rights, to fight oppression from within our own government. And that has carried over. Now we are over 3 years past it, and it still has had a chilling effect on us. Thankfully, we did have a good, wonderful, brave whistleblower by the name of Captain Timothy Cook. He went before Congress and he spilled the beans. He said what actually happened with the National Guard on January 6th, and that basically we've been lied to. It's an article over at independentsentinel.com. My good friend M. Dowling, she put together the transcript. She has the video itself. I'm not going to play it. Okay, as much as I greatly appreciate Captain Timothy Nick, his 5-minute intro, informative, absolutely, but it's a little dry. It's a little dry. So I'm just going to read parts of what M. Dowling posted, and then I'll leave a link to the video itself. You can also find it, by the way, if you're finding this video over at thelibertydaily.com. Just look at the link. Sorry, the link right below it. Okay, so because I'm the editor over at the Liberty Daily, so I will be putting this video right above the link to Independent Sentinel that has the story, and in there you'll be able to see this video and you'll be able to play it. 5 minutes. It's a good listen, but again, I'm not going to play it for the show. But according to Ms. Dowling, National Guard whistleblower Captain Timothy Nick said the Guard was ready to go to the Capitol on January 6th to help the police, but was told to stand down until after 5 p.m., which was, of course, too late. That's over 3 hours after when they should have been there. And if we're being fair, they should have been there from the beginning. Okay? They should have been there before the protesters even got to the Capitol. There should have been a line of 10,000 National Guardsmen, just as President Trump had requested, standing between the protesters. Let them protest. Great. Okay, let them protest, but don't let them go into the Capitol. It was a trap. Obviously, it was a trap. And as a result, we're seeing what's happening with President Trump. We're seeing what's happening with fighting voter fraud, the voter fraud that stole the 2020 election, and we're seeing the cooling effect that it's had on protesters and other patriotic actions that can be taken to oppose a tyrannical government. According to the article, the Secretary of the Army lied and claimed he made calls to the National Guard, but he did not. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser were warned about the security situation before January 6th. Despite that, they refused troops at the U.S. Capitol that day for political reasons. Chris Wray's FBI also refused to notify the Trump administration and his cabinet secretaries that they believed there could be violence, like the mass protests at the Capitol that took place that day. John Solomon from Just the News revealed Capitol Police were first warned about possible violence at the January 6th protests 2 weeks before the planned rallies. They allowed the event to go out, to get out of hand so that they could call it an insurrection and charge and arrest hundreds of people Mostly people who were let in by police and who walked in and walked out. So I'm going to read the important parts of the testimony. Again, you can find this over at independentsentinel.com or discern.tv, where we have it republished with permission, and watch the video itself. But I just not going to play it. No, sorry. Keep in mind that this was only the captain's second day on the job, so he was in for a shock. It's reminiscent of Training Day, one of the few good Hollywood movies that's been made in the last 3 decades. Good movie. Bill Paxton's dead. That sucks. All right, so let's see. He talks about the various lies that were being told between generals. Oh, here we go. He, and is referring to Secretary of the Army Ryan McCarthy, he went on to claim that he called and spoke to Major General Walker at least twice, ordering the deployment in the DC National Guard, or of the DC National Guard. This is also false. At no time did General Walker take any calls, nor did we ever hear from the Secretary about any ongoing conference calls or the secure video teleconferencing throughout the day. This I know because I was with Command General the entire time recording events throughout the day. So this is somebody who knows. He not only was he there, but he was in charge of recording it. Okay? So if anybody would know what actually happened, this is the person. If you want to know what happens in a court, ask the stenographer, because they have to pay attention to everything. This is essentially what Captain Nick was doing, his role there. Major General Walker told my staff officers to stand by with respect to deploy to the Capitol Hill. Only at 5:09 p.m. in the early evening, which I wrote down in my wheel book, was the D.C. Guard given orders to deploy, move to assist Capitol Police. We arrived too late, with one American lay dead and other sisters and brothers injured, including federal and local law enforcement officers. We were ready and standing by. I know if we were ready to deploy immediately, when General Walker made the request, the National Guard could have helped in civil disturbances to restore order quickly. And that's really all that was necessary. It's not like we needed the National Guard to fight against the protesters. If there were 10,000 National Guardsmen there, then it would have been a deterrent. It would have prompted order, and even the FBI agents undercover and the Antifa antagonists and all the people that were trying to rile up the crowds and get them to we gotta go into the Capitol, Ray Epps, they would have been able to stop it just by being there. Not through violence, not through arresting a bunch of people. It's just, they made it too easy to get in. They ushered them in. They literally, at some points, were basically tour guides. The police were. That never would have happened. This tells us beyond a shadow of a doubt, if you didn't know this already, which I'm sure most of you did, this was planned. This was executed exactly how it was supposed to happen. And it was a setup to go after those 3 elements. President Trump, the J6ers, of course, getting them to stop protesting and stop drawing attention to the stolen 2020 election, and to see exactly what we're seeing today with a neutered MAGA movement, a neutered conservative movement. We're still passionate, don't get me wrong, but there were events that happened even within like years after, 1 or 2 years after January 6th, events that should have been just jam-packed. And you see all over social media, don't go, it's the feds again. It's another trap. It's like now, because we saw this deep state trap, we witnessed what happened. We're continuing to witness the persecution of those that fell into the trap. Now all of a sudden, you've got very patriotic people who are gun shy. And I'm not saying gun shy is probably the wrong word to use in this instance, but you get the idea. We are unwilling to participate. Less willing. I shouldn't say unwilling. Many of us still go. I still go. I'm sure many of you still go. But the events are smaller. The protests are smaller, quieter. They've neutered us. And that was the intention. That was the intention from the start. Speaking of J6 and the the stolen election. There's another person being persecuted. That is Mike Lindell. Mike Lindell is being persecuted, of course, and I get to talk to Mike on a semi-regular basis. Not name dropping here, but I consider him to be a friend. And what they're doing to him is just disastrous. And this is why, My Pillow is the only company that I have as a sponsor that I do not consider to be mission critical. Okay, I've got medication like emergency meds for sponsors. I've got my Prepper Beef Company as a sponsor. I've got physical precious metal sponsors. I've got freeze dryer sponsors. I got all these great sponsors, right? But My Pillow as a company is not necessarily mission critical. Mike Lindell as a person is absolutely mission critical, which is why I tell people go to mypillow.com/JDR. Use promo code JDR to get the maximum discount. Yeah, everybody's got a MyPillow code, right? Great. They're all the same. They all give you the same discount. You can get one from Mike Lindell himself. It's not going to give you any more of a discount than if you just use promo code JDR at checkout. So go to mypillow.com/JDR, use promo code JDR, and get that aforementioned maximum discount that you can get on everything from bed sheets to slippers. Of course, My Pillow itself. We're on to My Pillow 2.0. I haven't heard about My Pillow 3.0 yet, but I'm sure it'll come soon. Robes, couch and recliner pillows. There's plenty of stuff here. Take advantage of it. Get you a My Pillow mattress. It's as low as $539.99. You just can't beat it, folks. Speaking of sending messages, there's a message being sent by Senator Rand Paul, and the recipient of that message is President Trump. Now, I am very much a supporter of Donald Trump. I want him to win the 2024 election. I believe that he won the 2020 election. But I'm not a sycophant. I'm not going to sit here and just say, "Oh, Trump can do no wrong." Okay, that's not true. He's done wrong many times, and when he does do wrong, a lot of times he fixes it. A lot of times he listens to his base and he recovers. Case in point, if you recall back in August of 2016, a month after he'd officially had the nomination locked up, okay, right after the Republican National Convention, he started talking about the quote unquote the softening. Okay, this was where throughout the entire primary season, he's talking about deporting illegal aliens and building the wall and making Mexico pay for it and all that stuff. That's fine. But then as soon as he had the nomination locked up, he did what every politician does. Okay, and this is based upon his advisors. I'm sure it wasn't his idea, but based upon his advisors at the time, they're saying, okay, so now we got to head back to the murky middle and we got to start talking about, maybe toning down the deportation thing because it's going to hurt us in the general election. We got to get the independents and yada, 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 whatever. I disagree, but hey, these guys, they get paid lots and lots of money to tell candidates how to win or lose. And unfortunately for Republicans, they usually get very bad advice, and Trump was one of them. So he was told to do the softening, and he said, maybe we shouldn't deport everybody. What if we just deported the violent ones? And they even had like a town hall with Sean Hannity, and the audience just it was embarrassing. I mean, Trump's like, we don't have to deport all 11 million. That's going to be hard. What if we just deport the violent ones or the criminal ones? And everybody's like, no, deport them all. And then Sean Hannity comes on, all right, folks, it's time to be reasonable here. It's like, no, we won't. And 2 or 3 days later, Trump reversed. He's like, you know what? There's no softening. We're just going to deport them all. Okay. So point being is that he will listen to his base. He listens to his advisors and his consultants more, unfortunately. But then if we're loud enough, he'll listen to us. Or if somebody such as Senator Rand Paul, who he likes and respects, he says stuff like this, maybe Trump will listen. And Trump has been in House Speaker Mike Johnson's corner for at least a week and a half now. And Paul says, no, don't do it. According to this article over at the Gateway Pundit by Jim Hoft, Senator Rand Paul issues stark warning to Trump, quote, he will lose his voters if he continues to support Speaker Johnson. And I wholeheartely agree. Senator Rand Paul has issued a stern warning to former President Donald Trump regarding his continued support for Speaker Mike Johnson. Speaker Johnson, the self-proclaimed wartime speaker, whatever, He's it's a wartime consigliere. Oh, no, he's not. He's are we in a war? I don't think we are. We're not. It's not our war. But he announced on Wednesday that he is proceeding with his intention to introduce a series of foreign aid bills for discussion, including provisions for funding Ukraine. It's a $95 billion package. And of that $95 billion, 60.84 of it is supposed to go to Ukraine to assist their regional partners to counter Russia. And this is a quote. 23.2 billion will go to replenish U.S. weapons stocks and facilities, and the rest of the money is going to go to Israel and quote unquote Palestine, whatever that is. Joe Biden says, "I will sign this into law immediately to send a message to the world." Well, Thomas Massie, Representative Thomas Massie out of Kentucky, he said, what we all should know, and this is the absolute truth. He recently announced that he will be co-sponsoring a motion to vacate the chair and remove Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House. But he said on Twitter, or on X, whatever you want to call it, Biden backs Johnson's plan because Johnson's plan is Biden's plan. What is that? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 words, and that's the most truthful statement you'll ever hear regarding this so-called plan. Look, we don't need to, I think it was Natalie Winters over at War Room said yesterday, we don't need to send another penny. I'll take it a step further. We never should have sent a single penny to Ukraine. It's not our problem. We have problems of our own here. We have plenty of problems of our own. It's time for us to say, I mean, when do we get the aid? We need the aid. We can't handle the border crisis, the illegal alien invasion. We can't house our own people. Homeless crisis, trank and fentanyl, drug crisis. We've got just all these crises everywhere, and we're not able to handle it. We need aid. We can't be sending aid anywhere else. And I'm not suggesting, we need to go get aid from anybody else. Look, you guys do you, we'll do us, everything will work out. Okay? Something crazy happens, a tsunami hits, okay, fine, we'll send like humanitarian aid. But even that shouldn't be the government. That really should be private organizations that are participating in that. It is time for not just our nation, but also for us as individuals and as families to start taking better care of ourselves and become more self-sufficient, focus on our own problems, our own needs, our own issues. This is why I started a company. My company is designed specifically to help Americans get long-term storage beef. And the reason we pick beef is because beef is under attack. If you go to Whole Cows TLD, that's WHOLE, it's like kind of like Whole Foods, WholeCowsTLD.com, you can shop around long-term storage beef. It says 10-year plus year shelf life. We got to put that, but reality, it's according to the USDA, it's a 25-year shelf life because it's ribeye, New York strip, tenderloin, all the good stuff. No beef crumbles here. Okay, no chunks, beef chunks of low-quality beef. This is actual good steak. It's cooked sous vide, freeze-dried, put into Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, and as a result, it should last for up to 25 years. So if Armageddon happens between now and 2049, you guys should be covered. You can check out the prices here. Disregard the promo code price because if you use promo code JDR, you'll actually get more than that. You'll pay less than what you would pay if you use the regular promo codes. It's my company. I own it. Use promo code JDR, and you'll get all American beef, no lab-grown meat, no mRNA jabs, all natural. It's just high-quality stuff, and it really is truly legitimately good. So check it out. Whole Cows. TLD.com, promo code JDR. Here's another story that is a sort of about Trump, not really, but sort of about Trump. It has a tangent to Trump. Look, he came out, he did his, was it last week or the week before, he did his announcement, his statement about what his perspectives were on abortion. I had a lot of my fellow, I'm an anti-abortion purist. Okay, I believe in birth. I believe in life at conception, which means that any killing of the child in the womb at any point would be murder. And therefore, I do not believe in abortion at all, not even for any exceptions. So I've got a lot of people coming at me and saying, "Oh, Trump is pushing a really lukewarm milquetoast version of pro-choice or pro-life or whatever." And, how does that make you feel? And I'm like, look, I've always said, I've been consistent since long before Roe v. Wade was overturned. before Roe v. Wade was overturned, I'm talking years ago. I've said it again. I've said it before. I'll say it again. The only way to stop abortion, to truly stop it, is through cultural and faith-driven teaching. We have to educate the people. We have to, and you're not going to be able to reach everybody. There's always going to be people, women, men, who want to stop a pregnancy because some of them, they don't view it as murder. But as Bill Maher said, I would say most of them do still think it's murder, especially, late term abortion. Of course, that's murder. That's obviously murder. You might want to debate me at some point about whether or not it's murder if you abort a baby shortly after conception. Is it really a baby? Does it have brain cells? What is? I can have that debate, but you can't debate it when it's later term because that's a baby. It's clearly a baby. That's why they never let you watch those videos. Not you. They never let pro-choicers, pro-abortion people watch the videos of what actually happens in a late stage abortion, dismemberment, or anything. They don't want you to see. They don't want them to see the baby that's inside of the mother, because it is a baby. It is alive. It's a person. This is a smaller version of a person. So anyway, that's why they push that. Point being is that should we stop fighting? Am I saying we don't fight any political battles? No, of course not. We still fight the political battles, but don't rest on that. We were cheering, and I was among them. I'm sure many of you were among them, cheering when Roe v. Wade was overturned. But then we stopped. Far too many of us stopped the push, stopped the fight, or many of us maybe just didn't even join in the fight to begin with. It's like, oh yeah, we hope it gets overturned. Maybe, but whatever. It doesn't affect us. Whatever, It's that indifference that harms us, and people have become, I think, pro-lifers have become more indifferent ever since Roe v. Wade was overturned. It's like, oh, victory. Was it really? According to this article over at Life News by Stephen Ertelt, Planned Parenthood killed 392,715 babies in abortions last year, a record number. Now, keep in mind, this is when Roe v. Wade, hey, overturned. We're in great shape. Everything's hunky dory, right? And we're good to go. That was in 2022. Now we look and we say the first year after Roe v. Wade is overturned, 392,715 babies murdered by Planned Parenthood. A record number. According to the article, it was another record year for the abortion giant Planned Parenthood, killing more babies in abortions than ever before. Although Planned Parenthood bills itself as a women's health organization, in reality it is a little more than an abortion business. As they always talk about the abortion business. And that is true. It's about, it really is. It's one of those things where, the only reason that I don't call it an abortion business is because I think that these people truly are evil. This isn't just a big, oh my gosh, this is the easiest way to make money by selling baby parts. I think that's kind of, to justify it on the side. But I think they really do just want to kill as many babies as possible. If you're going to pick a way to make money, is that really it? I don't think they look at it as, oh, this is going to be so profitable. It is, but that's not their reasoning. That's dismissing the actual evil that's behind it, if you go down that road. Planned Parenthood just published its annual report, its own figures from the previous year, and when it comes to abortions, the new report shows the abortion business killed 392,715 babies in abortions killed in the last year. That's a 5% increase from 2021 to 2022. That's over 1,075 babies killed in abortion every single day. Over 1,000 babies born, or would be born if they weren't killed, murdered through abortion every single day. I don't like doing things for effect, but ever since I started doing this segment, approximately 2 babies have been killed. Just since I started talking about this story, 2 more babies in the United States of America have been murdered just by Planned Parenthood. That's only their numbers. That's not even any other abortion clinics out there. So the point being, folks, don't just rest on, oh, hey, we're winning the battle, we're winning the fight. We got this. We overturned Roe v. Wade, so now we just got to go pass more laws. I'm not saying that we don't pass the laws, but we need to have a cultural and a spiritual awakening. People need to know what abortion actually does. People need to know what God says about abortion. People need to know that the Bible is very crystal clear about abortion. And you might say, well, what if they don't believe in the Bible? Okay, well, now's a good time to witness to them. Get them to believe in the Bible. That's step one. Step two, once they believe in it, now get them to understand that abortion is wrong. Abortion is murder. Abortion breaks one of the 10 commandments. There's no other way to put it. This is relatively easy stuff. No, I'm not going to take a break. We're going to keep going. Let's go to this. Let's go to. I'm going to skip that one. I'm going to skip that one for sure. I'll get back to those. I'm not skipping anything bad. Don't worry. Or anything good. I'm just skipping them because they'll fit in later. Let's go to this one. This is a good feel good, and then we'll go to a quick break. Well, not feel good, but this is a good rallying cry. It's an article over at Breitbart. California Christians fight back against city removing cross. Yay! California Christian Club is fight. And folks, results. Obviously, we want to push for results. Whenever there's any fights like these, we want to win. But just the fact, I mean, I'll take the fight. The fact that people are fighting, Christians are fighting, conservatives, patriots, when we fight, we have an opportunity to win. We'll always lose when we don't fight. So I want people to fight anytime we can. And I'm not talking about getting violent here. I'm talking about fighting the good fight, the right way, the legal way. According to the article, is by Olivia Rondu. A California Christian club is fighting to put their cross back on display after city officials used eminent domain to remove it. Don't get me started on the eminent domain. Whew. To remove it while citing complaints of it being reminiscent of KKK cross burnings and offensive to diverse communities. The Albany Lions Club had maintained their majestic 28-foot cross and lit it up for the Christmas and Easter holidays to send the message of God's love and be a comfort to the Christian community since 1971. In the over 50 years it stood on Albany Hill, the cross also served as a meeting place for group prayers, weddings, baby dedications, and memorial services for the community. The structure was erected on private land owned by one of the club's members, but the land is now part of a dispute with the city of Albany, which seized the plot last year. Think about that. Their reasoning, okay, the city of Albany, their reasoning, this is in California, not New York, their reasoning was that it was reminiscent of KKK cross burnings. I'm going to, look, I don't think that radical leftists or atheists are especially intelligent. Obviously, I don't, because they miss some of the most obvious truths out there. But this is a real tough one for me to swallow, because they would have to be like truly legitimately full-blown stupid to think that, oh, when they see a cross, the first thing they think of is it's reminiscent of KKK cross burning. I mean, they don't burn the cross. They do light it up for Christmas and for Easter, just as thousands, maybe tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands across the United States, large crosses are lit up during holidays. Some of them are lit up every night. And you don't look at that and say, oh my gosh, that reminds me of the KKK cross burning. So either they're really stupid or they think that we're really stupid. And I tend to think it's probably the latter. But they also said that it's offensive to diverse communities. Again, why is it always us? Why is it always Christians that are offensive? And to some extent, Jews, I get it, okay? Especially in light of recent events. People are getting offended by stars of David and yarmulkes and stuff like that too. They'll always be persecuted. But we too, Christians, are being singled out, targeted, okay? You would never, ever see any community, any city in the United States use eminent domain to take down the religious symbol of any other religion other than the Judeo-Christian faiths. That's it. Okay? Imagine the outrage if, because It was offensive to diverse communities if they took down, a Hindu statue through eminent domain. Oh my gosh, it would be absolute outrage. The ACLU would be there, ripping things apart, just bashing people's heads into the concrete. Okay, Antifa, BLM. I guess BLM doesn't do much anymore. What a waste of money. Antifa and their ilk would be out there protesting. It would just be pandemonium. You'd have the New York Times out there. You'd have Washington Post reporters literally crying on air, crying as they're writing out the oh, I can't believe this is our nation. This is so bad. But a cross gets taken down. It's like, oh yeah, no, that's reminiscent of KKK cross burning. They think we're idiots. They truly, legitimately think we're idiots. One thing you can do to fight and to spread the word of God and to have really great coffee is to go to my good friends at Promised Grounds. Go to jdrucker.com/coffee. That's jdrucker.com/coffee. And as their tagline says, he reigns, we pour. Okay. It's coffee the Christian way. They put Bible verses on the bags. They do. Well, I want to be clear about one thing before I even get into the whole fact of what they're doing with the community, which is very strong, working with their local community, working with communities across Texas and across the nation, and also contributing to help to bring water to people in need of water. There's just I can get into a bunch of different things that they do, but I want to be very crystal clear about one thing in particular, folks. The coffee is great. It's legitimately good. I have tried, I'm not going to say who, okay? I'm not going to out some of these coffee companies, but look, everybody and their dog has a coffee company they promote, and I get it. I've promoted a couple before, and it's usually you get the bag, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, it's coffee, it's fine. I got this, and I was astounded. I'd forgotten, okay? I had legitimately forgotten. Okay, I went and made my coffee. It's like, oh, let's try this one. And I went up and I started working and stuff like that. And I took my first sip and it's like, holy crap, this is good. And then it struck me. It's like, oh my gosh, this is from Promised Grounds. That's a true story, folks. That actually happened exactly like that. Okay. And so yeah, this is my coffee of choice. You can go to jdrucker.com/coffee and that'll take you to their website. It'll help you. It'll help them. It'll help me. It'll help everybody gets helped. And you'll get some amazing coffee from Promised Grounds. Now, I said we were going to take a break, but how can I take a break after already doing a promo? I should have stopped it and then gone to break where there's an actual promo, not just me reading it live on the air. So I screwed that one up. Sorry, folks. I guess we're going to have to move on to another story. That's good. So this story. This is one that, for complete transparency, this is a story that I commissioned. Okay, I commissioned it for my company. The extraordinarily talented writer, top 10. I can list probably off the top of my head. I can name 7 writers who are legitimately just they put me to shame. I'm a writer, and I'm thinking, wow, I read their stuff and I get jealous. One of those writers is Brandon Smith over at Alt Market. Check out his stuff at alt-market.us. I know it's a weird domain, but he needs more attention because the dude's super talented. And we commissioned him. I paid him to write articles, but I didn't give him any feedback. Okay, I didn't say, write an article promoting beef. I just said, do what you do, okay? And I trust that as long as you're talking about food or food shortages or, the attacks on the food supply, we'll put it on our website. So that's what we did. And of course, he did that, wrote a great one. And this one actually ended up getting picked up over at zerohedge.com. So kudos to Brandon for another Zero Hedge headline. Food is now an investment. Here's why inflation isn't going away anytime soon. And I'm going to read, I'm not going to read all of it. It's actually a fairly long article, not too long. But I want to get the key points out of this because this is important stuff. It really is. One of the more difficult aspects of working in economic analysis is the problem of rampant disinformation that you have to dig through in order to get to the truth of any particular issue. In this regard, economics is very similar to politics. The propaganda is endless, and debunking it sometimes feels like moving the mountains or moving a mountain with a teaspoon. Establishment media sources lie incessantly about our financial conditions, and when they are finally cornered and forced to admit how bad things are, they then lie about the causes. That said, I find that these lies are usually designed to do one of two things: overcomplicate the problem so that people give up thinking about it, or distract from the problem so that people can blame a scapegoat. Of course, invariably, the scapegoat is not the the bad guys that it should be. For example, as for inflation, here's the bottom line. Yeah, and it's funny. There was I did a story yesterday, and they actually collect data. The big data mining companies for political campaigns, they collect data, and one of the key factors that they're looking for in a voter is whether or not who they blame for inflation. Okay, and it's apparently, this is really weird to me because it makes no sense logically speaking. But again, leftists aren't always the most logical. Corporate America, in other words, corporate greed. The message that I thought, I can't believe that Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi and all those guys are saying it. Well, apparently that message is resonating because a lot of people think that inflation is a result of corporate greed. I'm not kidding. I mean, I can see you out there. You're scratching your head literally thinking, what in the world? Yeah, corporate greed. It's not Joe Biden's policies. No, no, no. It's not the rampant money printing. It's nothing like that. It's not spending as we do. No, 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 no. It's corporate greed, according to the left. Anyway, so according to Brandon Smith over at Alt Market, central banks and the fiat flood. Rising prices are caused by two main drivers. The first is money creation, or too many dollars chasing too few goods. Central banks around the world have been flooding the system with fiat currency ever since the debt crisis of 2008, and the Federal Reserve within the U.S. is the worst violator by far. We're talking about tens of trillions or more in money creation, all supposedly as a means to stall or prevent a deflationary crash. By the time the pandemic lockdowns were initiated and the Fed dropped $8 trillion plus onto the economy through stimulus measures like COVID checks and PPP loans, the total U.S. money supply was already at destructive levels. The COVID stimulus was simply the straw that broke the camel's back. So, if you want to know who is directly to blame for your daily expenses rising 30% or more in the span of 3 years, the first set of criminals are the central bankers. Governments and certain corporate partners are also to blame, but the central banks are the root mechanism for all inflationary movements. This is very true. It's my belief, according to the evidence, that central banks have deliberately triggered a stagflationary crisis with the intent to forcefully replace cash-based economies with a new digital and cashless global economy. However, that's a discussion for another article, and that's one we will discuss. We will discuss that very often. Okay, I'm not going to discuss it here because we got to get to more stuff, to the meat of the matter. But he's absolutely right. Central banks aren't stupid. As a matter of fact, okay, they employ some of the most brilliant people. They have access to technology through artificial intelligence, and I would argue they probably have AI hooked up through quantum computers that we don't have access to. They won't ever tell anybody about, but these quantum computers can tell them exactly what they need to do to achieve the goals they want to achieve. And the primary goal, is to have complete control over the economy through central bank digital currencies. That's the end goal here. The financial end goal. It's not the end goal of the globalist elite cabal. It's just, the central banks, what their part is, get the CBDCs out there, roll them out in different countries, and then consolidate them all together. One CBDC to rule them all. And we got a worldwide economy, and we're into the book of Revelation. Shortages and core resources. I'm not going to get into that because that is, we know what that means. I mean, the way that Biden has aggressively gone after the strategic oil reserve to save pennies at the pump. This wasn't about, he's just trying to help during the midterm elections. No, this was just, they want it drained. They don't want us to have a strategic oil reserve. And it's not just oil. It's across the board. Shortages are hitting at every level. Pharmaceutical shortages, food shortages are starting to hit greatly. and the elements to make the food, such as feed for cattle. Yes, these shortages are real and they are intentional. Number 3, media disinformation and crushing food costs. Now we're getting into the meat of it, literally. Food costs have risen by 30% or more, depending upon the products, since the beginning of 2020. And even though CPI reports several months ago showed a, quote, slowdown in overall inflation, this does not mean the prices are going to go down anytime soon. In fact, they will only keep rising with each passing year, and I would argue with each passing month. CPI is a tool for measuring the average price increase of over 80,000 products and services across the spectrum. I'm going to skip that part. Just bottom line is the reason they pick CPI is because it hides the things that actually affect us. By mixing in food into CPI with 80,000 other products, they can say, oh, no, inflation is only like 9% or 3% or 12%. They don't want you looking and saying, holy crap, my coffee is up 33% just in the last couple of years. This is crazy. They don't want you to see that. So, skip ahead, meaning that 30% plus increase in food that Americans have been dealing with, that's not going away. It's just going to climb as fast as it was. It's not just that inflation has hit us hard. It's that it's going to continue to hit us hard. And if anything, it's very likely that it will hit us harder in the near future. This is where we get to the real crux of the matter. From 2020 to 2023, the total costs paid by farmers to raise crops and care for livestock increased by more than $100 billion, which is a drop in the bucket for Ukraine, but that's a whole other story. Or 28% to an all-time high of $460 billion in 2023. Funny how that number tracks very close to the 30% increase in overall food prices since 2020. Again, this is the costs paid by farmers, by ranchers, by the people that are actually producing the food, the equipment, the feed, the fertilizer. It's all going up, and this is how they're able to, you don't go to the supermarkets to raise prices of food. If you want to raise the prices, you go to the farms and you don't say, hey, farmers, charge more. You say, hey, farmers, we're going to charge you more. That's why when we saw all of those industrial accidents starting in about 2021 into 2022, food processing plants, fertilizer plants, train derailments, everything that we're seeing, I believe ties into this. I believe it's all designed to destroy our infrastructure from within as much as possible. And people will say, well, it must be China, it must be Iran, it must be Russia or North Korea. What if it is us? I mean, what if this really is, the Biden-Harris regime, not them directly. I doubt they even have any idea, okay? They're just idiots. They're useful idiots. They're pawns. They're puppets. They're show, okay? But they're handlers. What if they do know? What if this is all part of the plan? In conclusion, back to Brandon Smith's article. In conclusion, this is why people need to start looking at food as an investment similar to the way they might look at their 401k or any retirement plan. If you want to mitigate costs in the future in terms of food, you will need to purchase foods that with a long shelf life and purchase them now. If you think that inflation is a passing phase and that things will go back to the way they were before 2020, then you probably won't take this concern seriously. But consider this. Well before 2020, Brandon was warning regularly about an impending stagflation crisis. The food shortage he bought in 2020 now costs at least 30% to 50% more to buy in 2024. Meanwhile, some of the top mainstream economists in the country were denying such a thing would ever happen. When it did happen, they claimed it was transitory. That was also proven false. Now they claim food will drop after companies are forced through regulations to cut prices, and that won't work either, folks, because they can't. They can't. I'm not saying they're not making profits, and I don't care whether they do or not, but it's not like they can just go out and reform their business. This isn't just about, taking the food and making it more expensive. It's also about controlling the supply of food. Henry Kissinger said, who controls the food supply can control the people. And the way that you can control the food supply is to price everybody out of the market. Make it to where They have a choice. They can either shut down or participate in a public-private partnership with government, with bureaucrats, and start producing food the way that the bad guys want it produced. The globalist elite cabal, they don't want beef. They want lab-grown meat. People say, oh, but they want insects, and that's partially true, but they want insects as a supplement for other products, right? They want to be able to sprinkle cricket powder on your potato chips or whatever, right? But the real push is going to be for lab-grown and alternative meats because they can control that completely. They can control what goes in it, and thereby they can control what goes in us. This is why, as Brandon says in the article, just even in the headline, food is now an investment. This is why we started my company in the first place, was to tackle this. We saw this coming too. Brandon saw it coming. We're not geniuses, folks. The writing was on the wall. We read the language. We knew the language that they were speaking, globalist New World Orders type language, and we said, we got to do something about this, and so we did. Let's take a break. I'm sure I'll play. Let's see if we can play an ad about prepper beef, because that's what you guys need to be buying. Stay tuned. Whether it's bugs or lab-grown meat or whatever they're pushing for the sake of climate change to replace good old-fashioned pasture-raised beef, they're pushing it. They're pushing it hard, and it's time for us to wake up. It's time for us to realize that we need to start stocking up on long-term storage beef. You can do that by going to freedomfirstbeef.com. That's freedomfirstbeef.com, and using promo code JDR. You will get freeze-dried ribeye, freeze-dried New York strip tenderloin, and of course their original steak product. And with 15% off, it's time. This is sous vide, so it's already cooked. It's freeze-dried. It's got 10 to 25 years shelf life without refrigeration, of course. So go check it out, freedomfirstbeef.com, and start stocking up on long-term storage beef today. Promo code JDR. Don't forget that part. Actually, folks, it's if you use promo code JDR, you get 25% off. I got to reshoot that commercial. That's outdated information. Fake news, not 15%. You get 25% off at freedomfirstbeef.com if you use promo code JDR. What would the JD Rucker Show be if I didn't have at least one really crazy story? And thanks to Michael Snyder over at End of the American Dream, I had one. This is actually, I heard about this whole black-eyed demon face phenomenon probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe longer than that. But I didn't think anything of it at the time. And it wasn't until I saw this story and read through it and things started ticking in my head. I started thinking, I wonder what if this is actually happening. I referred to see if there was any instances in the Bible that could match this, and I couldn't find any. If you know of any, please hit me up. You can always contact me, by the way. The two best ways to contact me at any point, if you are on X, and I know a lot of people boycott X, and I probably will someday too if I don't get kicked off first. But if you are on X, at JD Rucker is my handle, and I have open DMs. So that's something that, because I do the Liberty Daily and Discern Report, I have to stay on X, because that's the fastest news out there, faster than Fox News or CNN or anything like that. So I'm still on there, and I check it regularly. So if you want to send me a direct message, just use that. Very easy. Open DMs, and I'll reply. The other way, if you want to send me a longer email, for example, it just doesn't fit into Twitter, just go to jdrucker.com/talk, jdrucker.com/talk, and that will go also directly to me. I get a lot there, so I might not be able to reply in a timely manner, or maybe not even at all, but I will try. So those are the best ways to contact me. Anyway, if you've heard about this stuff, if you see anything in your study of the Bible about black-eyed, demon-faced people, let me know, because this story, I'm at about 60% as far as believing this, because let's face it, when things start to trend, I mean, you see on TikTok, they had kids eating Tide Pods. So it's not a stretch to think, oh, now people are seeing or pretending to see black-eyed demon-faced people. But with that said, this article by Michael Snyder did open up my eyes, pun intended, so to speak. Why? Here's the headline: is why are they trying so hard to convince us that people that are seeing black-eyed demon faces have a disorder? Well, it's a horrible. I'll admit, like I love Michael Snyder. I agree with him about 70 or 80% of the time, but he didn't do this headline right. The real question is this: is there are they pushing an extraordinarily rare disorder? Okay, very, very rare. Are they pushing it out into the mainstream because they know, they being the powers that be, the powers and principalities, the global elite cabal, the demons themselves, do they know that there's going to be some sort of awakening or visual shift in people that allows them to be able to see demons? And the real key here is that this rare disorder, I don't even, it's called prosopagmetamorphopsia. Prosopametamorphopsia. I'm not going to try that a third time. Hit me up on Twitter or X or whatever if you know how to pronounce that. Of course, I could always just look it up, but whatever. So there is this rare disorder, under 100 people, confirmed cases worldwide, so extraordinarily rare. But they see all faces are kind of stretched, and they've got like weird creases and maybe black eyes. People look like demons. But here's the thing: with this disorder, everybody looks like demons. It's a visual acuity disorder that makes it to where all these faces are distorted. But the instances that we're seeing being reported on social media and being reported here by Michael Snyder, these are instances where people are seeing a limited number, sometimes even just one person, where it's like, whoa, what's wrong with you, dude? Why are your eyes black? Or the actual examples are, oh my gosh, what the heck? I'm out of here. You know, which I would probably be the same way. I see somebody with black eyes, I'm gone. It's like, okay, bye. According to the article, so that's the question: is this some kind of phenomenon that is really happening? And if it is, if people really are seeing demons, essentially, is corporate media pushing out this narrative of, oh, there's this disorder that's causing this? That, don't worry, it's not true that people are actually seeing real demons. But we'll see. If you came into contact with someone with a face that looked like a demon and eyes that were completely black as night, what would you do? I already answered that. I'd run. Encounters of this nature, first I say, dear Lord Jesus, protect me, please, because sometimes running isn't enough. Then I'd run. Encounters of this nature are popping up on social media at the exact same time that the mainstream media is really trying hard to convince us, all of us, that anyone that is seeing black-eyed demon faces has a disorder. In fact, if you type demon face into Google News, you will literally get hundreds of articles about a disorder known as, and I'm not going to try to pronounce it again, we'll call it PMO. There we go. But this is a very, very rare disorder. At this point, less than 100 cases of PMO have ever been documented. So, why are they making such a big deal out of this quote-unquote disorder all of a sudden? All of the news stories about this disorder focus on one 59-year-old man from Clarksville, Tennessee, named Victor Shara. According to NBC News, Victor Shara has always had sharp vision, but one life-altering day in November 2020, he noticed out of the blue that people's faces around him looked demonic. Their ears, noses, and mouths were stretched back, and there were deep grooves in their foreheads, cheeks, and chins. Quote from Mr. Shara, my first thought was, I woke up in a demon world. You can't imagine how scary it was. And as Michael Snyder does, I believe him. You know, if this really is a disorder, and I've seen, we've all had some variation of hallucinations. Okay, I remember we had a night back when I was probably in my 20s. We had a night where we were hanging out. Me and my wife were hanging out with a married couple friend of ours, and we were playing Mario Kart like all night. The kids were in the room playing, and we were just drinking Dr. Pepper and playing Mario Kart. And the next morning, I'm sleepy. I've got to go to work. I didn't get much. I don't think I got any sleep. And I'm on the road, and I start seeing bananas on the road. I'm not kidding. I'm like about to swerve. I got to convince myself, don't worry, nobody's trying to throw bananas at your car. That's the closest I've come to some sort of hallucination. And I don't think it was demonic. I think it probably had something to do with Nintendo and tiredness. But point being is that we've all experienced some sort of hallucination. So I do believe especially if this is persistent, then that is obviously that's something that is a disorder, whether it's visual or mental or a combination of the two. Feel bad for them. But again, the key there is that they see all faces like that. It's not just a face. So now you've got these examples of people that are seeing individual faces that appear to be demonic, and they're being told that it's PMO, but it can't be, because if it's PMO, then everybody will look weird. When you start having selective views of this, now it's like, that's sort of weird, and it is. Okay, so it's almost as if some outlets are trying to suggest that many of their readers could have the condition soon too. That's weird. And this, again, because there's so many stories coming out about this. There's stories coming out about something that it's so rare, so infrequent. Why are they warning people? I mean, it would be different if it's like highlight, oh my gosh, this is crazy. It's another thing to say, if you see this, maybe they know something. Maybe they've been told something. Maybe nothing. I don't know. You decide. According to the article on NBC, we've heard from multiple people with PMO. They've been diagnosed by psychiatrists as having schizophrenia and put on antipsychotics when their condition is a problem with the visual system, said senior author Brad Duchesne, a professor of psychology and brain science and principal investigator of the Social Perception Lab at Dartmouth. Back to the quote, and it's not uncommon for people who have PMO to not tell others about their problems with face perception because they fear others will think that the distortions are some sign of psychiatric disorder, which obviously it is. It's a problem that people often don't understand. Again, it sounds like a sales pitch. I mean, we're talking about a disease. You are more likely to be struck by lightning than to have PMO. And yet story after story after story is coming out, and only very recently. Back to the article. For those that really do have PMO, faces all around them look distorted. So if the vast majority of faces you see look completely normal, and then you encounter someone with a demon face, that is not PMO. It's not selective. It's not like your brain sees this face and sees a demon, and then sees these other 10 faces and sees them normal. That's not how PMO works. But recently, videos from people that have had very strange encounters with individuals that have completely black eyes have been getting a lot of attention on social media. Below is a video by a Christian delivery driver, and it appears that he is very honestly trying to share what he experienced. I'm going to play this video because it is. I believe him. I think that the way that he's portraying the story is accurate. I know that people can lie. People will do things to get attention. After all, TikTok is about attention. It's not about them just getting attention. It's about TikTok holding their attention, and that's a whole other story for another day. But let's listen to what this guy has to say. You tell me. You watch carefully. You tell me. Do you think that is he making this up? Is he crazy, or did he see a demon?
Hey, so today I experienced something that I've never experienced in my life before. Freaked me out. Thought I was crazy. Still haven't processed it fully. So, as I do every week, twice a week, I make deliveries to the same guy. I've been doing it for 7 months. And it's the same guy every time I walk in. He's got a big garage with like a couple trucks in it. I walk in, I hand him his parts, we talk for a minute, I walk away, I go on my business. Today, I walked in, and he had his back to me, and he was working on his bench, and he must have heard me coming, I don't know, because I was actually pretty quiet, I thought, but when he turned around, I jumped, and kind of grabbed my mouth like that, because I didn't know what to think. and he laughed a little bit, and he called me jumpy. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm just not feeling very good. And I handed him his part, and I was like, hey, I got to go. The reason I reacted that way is because when I looked at him, he was different. He didn't look like the same guy I saw every other time. First thing I saw was he had no color in his eyes. They were completely black. Like black. Like you couldn't even see reflections. It was just a black mass. And for some reason, his ears were kind of weird, and they had like this little point like that. I don't know what that was. Excuse me. But then I was talking to my friend, and he sent me an article about them saying that a new disorder that's coming out where people are starting to see demon faces in people. And it got me thinking, if they're putting something like that out, could it be a disorder, or is it God is actually letting people see demons and they're just trying to make it look like we're crazy? I still can't process it. I can't. I don't know. And like ever since the eclipse, I find it funny. The clouds look different for some reason. I don't know what it is yet. I'm going to figure that one out. But that could be just me being dumb. The other thing I saw, like I have perfect vision. So I don't know what I saw.
Well, he seems pretty sincere to me. Again, I could be fooled. Maybe this has already been debunked. Who knows? But I want your perspectives on it. Your homework assignment is you tell me. Is this real? Is it happening? Is this a conspiracy, or is this just some fad trend on TikTok that's all of a sudden happening? Michael Snyder goes into another example of it. I'm not going to play that one. Talks a bit more about it. Asks the same basic questions that I've already asked. Then he starts talking about monkeypox with pandemic potential. If you want to read the story, you can find this over at endoftheamericandream.com, or you can always find any of the stories linked, or even, if we have permission, even posted in their entirety over at discern.tv. This next story by Jack Cashill over at WND. Has the George Floyd era come to an end? And the real question here isn't whether or not the George Floyd era has come to an end. The real question here is what is going to happen in the coming months. People are concerned, and rightly so, about the election. And it doesn't matter which way it goes. There's going to be, in my humble opinion, there's going to be some variation of violence. Now, people will say, well, if Trump wins, obviously the left is going to do their thing, and it's going to be worse than the George Floyd Summer of Love. Other people will say that if Biden or even RFK Jr. or Michelle Obama or somebody else wins, that they being the powers that be, will then prompt false flag operations that will appear to be like domestic terrorism from supposedly MAGA people. It's possible, but let's see what Jack has to say. On Monday morning, I pulled into my office parking lot to see something that I thought I would never live to see: a work crew painting over a sprawling George Floyd mural. It was my Berlin Wall moment, a sign perhaps of the end of an era as criminally insane as the one that gave us the wall in Berlin. I took a photo to capture the work in progress. I'm not sure anyone else did. My involvement with the Floyd era began in front of the building that curated the Floyd mural for these many years. During the lockdown spring of 2020, I was working at my office when I heard an ungodly howl coming from the street. In that, my office is located in the counterculture homeless section of Kansas City. Every city has one. I thought little of it. People scream here every day, literally. Only after the screaming persisted for about 5 minutes did I descend to the street to check it out. What I saw was a male Kansas City police officer kneeling on the neck of a large, squirming woman while he awaited backup. My first thought was, thank God she's white. The restraint Did not look good, but it proved remarkably effective. If her body remained immobile, the woman's lungs operated full blast. You could have heard her in Wichita. Not wanting to seem ghoulish, I chose not to record the incident. I should have. When Derek Chauvin applied the same restraint on George Floyd a few weeks later, the propagandists told us that Chauvin's was a uniquely cruel, lawless maneuver. Sorry, having difficulty reading today. Although I've been writing in Chauvin's defense ever since, my words fell on ears scared shut. A frightened America preferred the lie, one of many lies we brought in that most twisted year in our nation's history. The Floyd's systemic racism lie merged with the countless COVID lies and the free and fair election lie to give us President Joe Biden and our first real taste of homegrown fascism. Legendary Louisiana Governor Huey Long was reported to have responded to the question of whether fascism will come to America with the answer, yes, but it will come disguised as anti-fascism. How true that is. As if to prove Long a prophet, our fascist shock troops call themselves Antifa, shorthand for anti-fascist. One conspiracy theory traced to the right is that the subsequent Antifa BLM riots were orchestrated to enhance Democratic chances in November of 2020. In a memorable post-election Time magazine article, The Secret History of the Shadow Campaign That Saved the 2020 Election, Mary Ball confirmed that the conspiracy was no mere theory. The organizers who led what Ball called the racial justice uprising hoped to harness its momentum for the election. Rioting, Ball all but boasted, was the leverage leftists used to keep the business interest in line. The summer uprising, Ball wrote, had shown that people power could have a massive impact, harnessing the numerical power of passive young whites and the active menace of young blacks and their Antifa allies. Protest organizers brought America to its knees in many places, literally, even in the Capitol. High on their success, activists, claimed Ball, began preparing a planning to reprise the demonstration if Trump tried to steal the election. By steal, Ball meant win. Potential rioters had been conditioned to believe that only election fraud could assure Trump victory. Well before the election, a coalition called Protect the Results had posted a map with some 400 sites where protesters would assemble to protest the election results and, if history was a guide, not necessarily peacefully. The business community, Ball revealed, was engaged in its own anxious discussion about how the election and its aftermath might unfold. The rioters had alerted corporate America to the very real possibility of economic disrupting civil disorder should Trump prevail. Not one to stand on principle, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce partnered with the very activists who had orchestrated the summer's disorder. Together, they called for the American democratic process to proceed without violence, intimidation, or any other tactic that makes us weaker as a nation. From the fascist perspective, any other tactic meant a Trump challenge to what they knew would be millions of disputed votes due to the changes force-fed through the system by an orchestrated COVID pandemic. In general, corporate honchos never had much use for Trump. They needed little arm twisting to make, in Ball's words, a sort of implicit bargain to keep the peace and oppose Trump's assault on democracy. Ball mentioned George Floyd once in her article, and then just offhandedly. Like others who exploited his death, she had little interest in the person and no interest in the Minneapolis police officers who were being sacrificed to assure a favorable outcome in November. In truth, no one ever cared about Floyd, a chronic felon and pathetic druggie. His erasure from my neighborhood wall evoked no protest, not a single peep. The optimist in me sees that as a good sign and the end of a DEI-driven era of racial madness. The pessimist in me sees the newly blank wall as a clean slate, ready for a new mural of a new martyr and maybe, who knows, even a new disease to make the whole thing work. Rinse and repeat. We've heard a lot of people talking about this for really since, might not even been last year, it could have been the year before. People talking about how there could be another pandemic. People talking about how there could be more uprisings, similar to what happened with George Floyd, but perhaps even worse. And this talk it's legitimate. I mean, these aren't unfounded conspiracies. These are These are true and legitimate fears. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I don't want to say it's going to happen because I'd be maybe participating in making it happen. But if I had to bet, if somebody said pick one or the other, you have to, I would say yes. We are going to see many, many, many shenanigans. Right now, it seems as if lawfare is the weapon of choice being used by the Democrats, by the leftists, by the uniparty swamp, by the globalists. They're trying to lawfare Trump out of even running. They're basically making it to where he can't campaign. And I'll be talking about this hush money trial, I'm sure, in the future. I don't want to dwell on it. But they're not going to rest on their laurels. They're not going to say, hey, what worked in 2020 is going to work again. I think whatever they're going to do, it's going to be bigger. It's going to be more. It's going to be worse if they choose to go the route of riots. They will be worse than the George Floyd riots. If they want to go the route of pandemic, it'll be worse than the COVID pandemic. If they want to go the route of vote rigging through mail-in ballots or drop boxes or voting machines or whatever, then they will double and triple and quadruple down to try to protect their cheating ways. They're terrified of a Trump presidency because of what it could mean to their machinations. And when I say they're terrified, I'm talking about, again, the globalists, the uniparty swamp, the deep state, all of the various New World Order entities that are participating in one way or the other with trying to destroy the United States of America and take full control of the world. Sounds like a lot to deal with, but we can't dismiss it. There's a thin line between fear mongering and between trying to ring the right alarm bells. There's an even thinner line between getting caught up in legitimate, righteous tactics and actions and being sucked into the abyss of unfounded conspiracy theories. I have to sort through that on I wouldn't say a daily basis, but at least probably 3 or 4 times a week. I have to look at a new theory or re-examine an old theory and decide, is that crazy or is it not? Is that, I mean, I shouldn't say almost all of them are crazy, but what we've learned in the last 4 years is that sometimes crazy doesn't necessarily mean untrue. They have gone crazy, and they have taken their fear of what Trump can do to them, and they've translated that into bringing fear into people. The fear that the people have of Trump is irrational. We've seen time and again all these videos. You always see them, whether it's campus reform or whoever. They go out and they go to like a protest, and somebody's holding a sign that Trump is a criminal, and they ask him, "Oh, so what did Trump do?" It's like, or Trump is a racist. They'll hold that sign. Okay, so give me an example of Trump being racist. They can't. They just know it because they've been indoctrinated and brainwashed into thinking that. This is why I don't think that Trump can possibly get a fair trial. Not in New York City, not in Washington, D.C. Neither of those places does he have a chance. And I know my audience doesn't want to hear that. I just keep thinking, trying to work out the timelines in my head. Can it get to the Supreme Court in time to have sanity, overrule it? I don't know. I'm not an attorney. I just know that they're scared of him. And they don't want a repeat of 2016, and they're not going to sit back and hope that their 2020 tactics are going to work just the same as they did back then. They're going to double down. They're going to triple down. They're going to quadruple down. And they're going to come after us. Our future is a concerning one. Now, I am generally, I wouldn't say an optimist. I wouldn't even say a realist, but I'm somewhere in between. Okay. Like I'm giddy. I get excited about a lot of these things because it tells me that the crazier things get, the closer we are. And obviously every new day we're getting closer and closer to being home, to being out of this crazy world. And I'm okay with that. I'm actually looking forward to it greatly. But with that said, having read my Bible, knowing how it ends, knowing that there's going to be a lot of bad but then there's going to be infinite good. Okay, it's worth the trade-off. But that still is no comfort for us in the here and now when we are faced with such adversity. So when I say that, folks, it's going to get worse, I'm not trying to make you paranoid. I'm not trying to make you upset. I'm not trying to, I know that we need hope now, perhaps more than ever in any of our lifetimes. I do want to give you hope, but I don't want to do so against the truth. The truth is, they really are going to do some crazy things between now and the election. And anybody who tells you they know what those things are going to be, they're either delusional or they're lying, because we don't know. I think that whatever it is, and when I say it's not an it. It's going to be just like they did in 2020. It's going to be a combination of 8 different things. You can't attribute how the 2020 election was stolen to just one element. I mean, they hit it on every front, or at least every front at the time. And I believe they're going to hit it from even more fronts for this election. So stay frosty, my friends. Stay frosty. One of the things that you can do to protect your future is to invest into physical precious metals. Now, everybody and their dog has, all the conservative show hosts have a precious metal company or a precious metal sponsor that's offering $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 in free silver or whatever. And I always wonder, how are people able to suspend disbelief? In other words, it's like, oh, yes, you pay a $299 processing fee and we'll send you $10,000 in free silver. Don't worry. The product, the gold and the silver that you're buying isn't overpriced by 100%. Don't worry. Don't look at the margins. It bugs me because I know that people are being taken advantage of. That's why I work with a faith-driven precious metals company, Genesis Gold Group. You can check them out, learn more, learn everything that you need about them at jdrgold.com. Okay, at jdrgold.com, you can fill out the form, and we'll send you a free definitive gold guide. And somebody will reach out to you, and they'll try to match you up with whatever is going to be best. Okay, whatever's going to work best for you. There's no one size fits all here. Now, when it comes to precious metals, they have to have an understanding of your situation, so they know, are you going to be doing home improvements in the next 5 years? Are you going to keep everything in your retirement? Do you want to move 10%, 50%, 100%? Like, they work with you. Okay, they're educational and informative. They don't pressure you. So check them out, jdrgold.com. They're not going to try to con you with quote unquote free silver. Okay, they're just gonna give you your options and give you the choice, and then you can make a good choice from there. One of the things, if you do go over there, let me go back there real quick. One of the things, if you do go over there, you will find more than just a contact form. You'll actually see articles that are out there. Of course, Dean Cain has been a strong proponent for them. Great actor, good friend. Mike Lindell has recently come out and endorsed Genesis. It's been a ride because, look, this isn't. There's a lot of big gold companies out there with deep pockets that can pay Fox News contributors a ton of money to pretend like, oh yeah, no, I buy all of my gold from these guys. They don't. And if they do, they're not paying the price that you would be paying. I can assure you of that. So check them out. Just take a look, see if they're a good match to move your retirement over to a self-directed IRA backed by physical precious metals by going to jdrgold.com. Unfortunately, gold only solves one of many, many, many problems. There are a lot of issues that we face as a nation, as individuals, as families, as communities. I always tell people, try to localize as much as possible. I was on with Alex Newman, who I'm about to play my interview with him, talking a little bit about the need to localize and why that's so important. I also say, if you can get out of the city, please do. Please get out of the cities as quickly as possible because it is a dangerous place to be in, especially when the crap hits the fan. But I do want to tease a little bit. I have a Substack, lateprepper.substack.com, and on that Substack, I will often get requests for information. And lately, a lot of people have been saying, "Hey, I'm new to this. I don't want to sift through everything. Can you just do like a quick, comprehensive, not comprehensive, but a quick, what do we need? What are the basics?" Okay, now one does not have to become a doomsday prepper living off grid in a bunker in Montana in order to be able to bug in. There's bugging out, which means you're ready to grab your crap and go and head for the hills. We're not going to be talking about that because it's a whole different story. But we will talk about bugging in and the scenarios, just as an example. Let's say there's rioting in the streets. Let's say there's martial law. Let's say that there's a cyber attack that cripples the supply chain and makes it to where not only can you not really leave, but even if you did, it'd be hard to get anything because it's just everything's crashing. Imagine a pandemic, but one that's far worse than COVID. Imagine like a hemorrhagic fever where you're stuck. You have to stay in your home. If you go out, there's a good chance that you'll die. It's not like a mild flu if they were to unleash something harsher on us. There's lots of scenarios, and I always tell people just make sure that if things do go south, being able to bug out is great, especially for natural disasters. But being able to bug in, that covers, I think, more scenarios. Okay, that being depending on where you live. Like for some people, it doesn't matter. Bugging out is the best way to go. You should probably bug out already. If you're living in like a major Democrat city, you should probably go ahead and just bug out forever. But bugging in, being able to sustain without outside help is can be challenging, and people are interested. So I'm working on an article now. I don't have it completed, but I am working on an article now that will detail that and go into specifics. Now it talks about 7 items that you're going to need, 7 things, not items, but seven needs that you're going to need to fill. And of those 7 needs, there's literally dozens, if not hundreds, of others that you could add to the list. I broke it down into these 7 because these 7 are the ones that I think are the most crucial. Okay, you could say that the ability to make fire is crucial, and so having lighters and plasma torches and windproof matches that's a top priority. It's important. I mean, it definitely is important, but it's not everything. Like I wouldn't put it into this category, into this list as far as helping people who may not necessarily want to go live off grid on a homestead, but who do want to be able to like say, I want to stay in my home. I don't want to wait for FEMA to save me. I don't want to have to venture out and fight off the masses. I just want to be able to stay at home, protect my family, and we'll wait it out. Wait for sanity to, Lord willing, to return. And so that's where this list of 7 comes in. And this is in no particular order, but I want to go through the list briefly and just give you an idea of what you'll need. This call it basic prepping 101. Okay, so we'll start with number 1. The most important thing I would say, as far as a need that not enough people take into account, is water. Okay, next to oxygen, water is the lack of water will kill you the fastest. Okay, if you don't have oxygen, obviously you'll die, best case scenario, in minutes, right? But without water, you'll die in like 3 days, 3 or 4 days max. So being able to have a lot of potable water is very important. And I know that it's hard for some people. If you're living in a small apartment, where are you going to store, 30 gallons of water? 30 gallons will only get you about a month per person, right? Because they say that you need about a gallon of water a day to survive. Now, you can probably lower that down to a liter, but we'll stick with the survivalist number of 1 gallon of water per day. That's not just for drinking, by the way. It's not like you have to drink a gallon of water a day to survive, but you get the idea. So, but find some way to store it. Okay. If the faucets run dry, what are you going to do? Depending on your situation, maybe you're close to a river or a stream or a lake. Great. Awesome. But if not, and even in that scenario, you should still have some water localized, just in case maybe going out isn't going to be possible. Maybe there are roving gangs of marauders out there looking for people to steal their water and their supplies and their women and children or whatever. So you make sure that you have at least some water in the house. If you need to get, 30 gallons, 300 gallons, whatever you can get. If you live in an area and you have the circumstances and the resources to be able to get one of those big, huge, yard-sized water storage tanks, they can hold thousands of gallons. Get that, okay? Because water, you just need it. You just need a lot of it. Number two, again, not in any particular order, but obviously food. And I'm not going to dwell on food. Obviously, I own a food company, so I'm sure I'll be talking about that ad nauseum in most shows. But making sure that you have food. One thing I will tell people is don't just stock up on long-term storage food. That's good. That's important, but do it in stages. The worst thing that could possibly happen, not the worst, there's many worse things, but a bad thing that could happen is if you're sitting there and you think you've got all this beans and rice and freeze-dried lasagna and whatever, you got all this food that'll last 10, 15, 25 years, right? And you start eating it on week 2. Why? Because you don't have the other things already. It's in phases, right? You got your perishables. Everybody has perishables. You got your bread, your eggs, your milk, whatever. Eat that first, okay? And then once that runs out, then you move on to the midterm storage items. Cans of soup, for example, will last approximately two years, but they really technically can last much longer than that. The best buy date, I think, is 18 months or 2 years on most canned goods. Just because it goes beyond the best buy date doesn't mean that the food is bad. Visual inspection, nasal inspection. Look at the can. Is the can bulging? Is it rusted? Is it perforated in any way? If so, then it's bad. It's probably bad. But if the can looks good, everything's in order. Open it up, smell it, look at it. Is it the right color? Then give it a taste. Use your senses to determine. Don't just say, "Oh my gosh, this is the best buy date was last month. Let's throw this out." I have to stop my wife from doing that because she's like, "Well, it's expired." I'm like, "No, it's not expired. Stop it. Put the can down. Put the can down." Okay. Number 3, alternate, not alternative, alternate energy, right? If you have, for example, a solar generator, you got a small array of solar panels. You got a little solar generator that can store up solar energy. Obviously, this doesn't work if you're living in areas where there's not much sun, but find other means. Being able to have the energy to power devices if necessary. Of course, the internet will probably be out at that point, so maybe that won't matter as much. But communication devices, walkie-talkies, being able to just have rechargeable batteries, lots of rechargeable batteries. I'm a big fan of rechargeable batteries. Permanent supply. Batteries, having enough for all the devices that you'll need. Okay? Make sure that you have that. And then there's cooking energy. I'm a big fan of also the solar, I don't have it near me, but solar ovens. Okay? They're cylinders. You lay out the food in there and then you stick it out in the sun. And it takes like 2, 3, 4 hours to cook, but at least you'll get to cook it, right? And then making sure that, of course, you have other needs. Like if you live in a area where it gets cold, you're going to need energy for heat, whether that's burning wood or coal or whatever. Make sure that you have plenty of that available, especially during the winter, so that if you are bugging in and you have no access to the outside, that you're not going to freeze to death. Okay. Now, when it comes to heat, that's a little bit different story. If the energy grid goes down, it's not like you can. It's very difficult to take a solar generator and power an air conditioner. You could probably power a fan, and that might be the solution. But again, assess, make your plan based upon your personal situation. Number 4, is defense. That's it, defense. And, you could say, "Oh, is he talking about Kung Fu?" No, that helps. That's nice. It's good exercise. But, martial arts or any type of hand-to-hand combat fighting, that's great. It's fine. But that's not what I'm talking about. You might say, "Oh, is he talking about crossbows or knives or whatever?" Yeah, okay. Having a bat, having a bat. This reminds me of a joke. I've never made my daughter laugh so hard. We got her a little. It's a bat. It's about this long, right? It's a little metal bat. and it's literally a self-defense bat. It's not used for games or anything. It's shaped perfectly like a bat, but it's small and it's self-defense bat. And she's like, can I keep this by my bed? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. That's where I want you to keep it. She's like, just in case, can I have a knife to keep by my bed too? And I said, no, 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 because you've already got your bed bat, and then if you have the knife, then you'll have your bed bat and beyond. Okay, so it was a horrible joke, but she thought it was hilarious. She laughed for like 7 days. It just nonstop. I had to take her and make her stop laughing. True story. Not really. No, obviously for defense, you need firearms. I don't care. I know I can't say that on YouTube, so this video won't go on YouTube. But you got to have plenty of firearms, at least one, but preferably at least one or multiple for every member of your family who is of age to be able to fire a firearm. They should have all the training, tons of training, plenty of training, plenty of practice. They should know how to clean a firearm. They should know how to disassemble and reassemble a firearm. They should know how to handle jams. They should know everything, and you should too. Just in case, I say they as if maybe you don't need the training, but maybe you do need the training. Get yourself trained. Have plenty of firearms, accessible, but appropriately so. Having a good gun safe is the best thing that you could get. And then, of course, plenty of ammunition as well. Okay, it's not just about home defense either. You never know. You never know if there's going to be marauders of some sort, government ordained or not, who are going to try to get into your house and get and acquire your supplies or your family. Okay, so you don't want to go out that way. You want to make them go out that way. So make sure you have plenty of firearms, ammunition, all that good stuff. Physical precious metals, I've talked about that before. In a bartering situation, you want to be able to barter, and you don't want to be bartering with food per se. People say, well, nobody's going to care about gold and silver during the apocalypse, and I beg to differ. Okay, gold and silver have retained their value, or retained some value, not retained their value, but have been considered valuable since the dawn of humanity. There's never been a break in that, even through hard times. Okay, even through drought and famine, there's just an allure for gold and silver. So having some available in your safe on hand that you can use to barter, it's just a best practice if you have the resources. Now look, if you're struggling paycheck to paycheck, right, then get beans and rice, okay? get a 380 and some cheap ammunition. Don't spend that money on gold. If you don't have the money, don't waste it on gold or silver. That's only if you got plenty of everything else, then having some barter material, wealth protection material, just in case things do go back to normal. There's lots of reasons to have it. And this is before even talk of the apocalypse or anything like that. There's always been a good reason to have physical precious metals in your safe at home or in a depository if you're using it for a 401k. But the last part, which I said could arguably be the most important, and I say this because you could say it's definitely not the most important because you can survive without it, but I would argue that surviving without it would be challenging mentally, and that's activities. Okay, now for me, I'm not going to sound preachy here, but if I've got a Bible, I've got years of activities. Okay, I mean, if you ever really you could read the Bible and read like just one single line of it and really break it down and study it and cross reference it, and you could take one verse from the Bible and spend hours on it. At least I can. But that for me that's enough. But it's not for everybody, And I mean, having board games, cards, whatever, something books. One of the things that I was talking to good friend Pastor Dave Scarlett over at His Glory Ministries, and I was telling him his one of his movies that he's promoting is coming out next month, and he's renting it, and you can get the DVD, you can rent it digitally, or you can buy it. And he's like, but I don't think anybody would. Why would they buy it? I'm like, dude, I'll buy it. I'm like, I like to buy things. He's like, well, why wouldn't you just rent it? Are you going to watch it multiple times? I said, maybe. I said, I have I think it's a 5 terabyte, it might be a 10 terabyte drive. 10 terabyte drive, external hard drive, where I take all the materials that I need, whether it's entertainment, documentaries, history. I love lots of history stuff and how to's, a lot of how to videos and documents. And I store them all on this external hard drive that I keep protected. And I say, if things go really south, let's say, just as an example, let's say the world goes really crazy and you're stuck at home for months or even years. It's like having that external hard drive and a medium through which to play it. And then by the way, you could also just get a DVD player. But as long as you got your solar generator and the means to be able to play media from your external hard drive, great. But of course, the best way to me is books. Obviously, the Bible is my favorite. But if you have dozens, hundreds of books, that too can be a great way to pass the time. Keep your mental sanity in order, because being locked up in your own home for an extended period of time without being able to communicate with the outside world, without having TV or internet or anything like that, a lot of people will. I mean, they'll go crazy. Okay, you don't want people in your household going crazy because they're done playing tic tac toe and they're out of paper. Speaking of which, that's a good activity too, is having lots of paper and pens and pencils. But I digress. Point being, those are the 7 items to recap: water, food, alternate energy supplies. Oh, I didn't mention medications. Duh. Sorry. I was like, how did I get to 3 and then skip to? It's only 6. I skipped medication. Make sure you got plenty of meds. Some meds you can keep for a long, long time, especially if they're sealed. Other meds do have a lot shorter. They just go bad. They lose efficacy, or sometimes they can become poisonous. So consult with your doctor. Find out which meds you can stock up on for an extended period of time, especially chronic medications if you need them on an ongoing basis. Also, antibiotics. Antibiotics, if you keep them sealed up, I know they technically have I think it's a 1 year or 2 year shelf life. But from what I've been told, and again, I'm not a doctor, so seek advice from an actual medical professional. But from what I've been told, as long as it's sealed, that they don't lose efficacy, and they definitely don't turn poisonous in a year or two. It takes a lot longer than that. You don't want to die from a tooth infection. Okay, so having and maybe you're into holistic medicine instead. Great, get whatever the holistic version of that is. Great, get everything that you can. Get all your herbs and spices and whatever it is that you're needing. But get loads and loads and loads of meds too. So water, food, alternate energy, medications, defense, namely firearms, precious metals or other bartering materials. I don't think Bitcoin is going to be easy to barter with. Just my thought. Okay, if technology goes down, the grid goes down. I'm not sure what you're going to do with your Bitcoin. Whatever. And then last but not least, activities. Have a Bible, multiple translations. Have them ready, or if you have other books, get tons of books. Saving media, board games, like I said, just different things that can keep you and your family active and mentally active and sane, and that way you're not at each other's throat. You're not feeling like, oh my gosh, I got to get out of here, and you go out and you join a marauding band or a traveling band of marauders or anything like that. So that's my 2 cents. I'm sure that there will be people that will disagree. You'll want to add things to the list. You'll want to take things away from the list. You'll say, my gosh, no, you don't need water. I don't know. Leave your comments or thoughts or whatever in the chat, or you can just reach me directly by going to my Twitter account. It's twitter.com/JD Rucker, and I have open DMs, so I don't even have to be following you. You can communicate with me and tell me how right or wrong that I am, which is, I mentioned it. I see it was, you're going to think I did it on purpose. I didn't, but it's a good thing that I mentioned medications at the end, because one of our wonderful and amazing sponsors at Jace Medical, you can get to them by going to jdrucker.com/meds. That's jdrucker.com. Sorry, I need you to see me with the hand motions. jdrucker.com/meds. Okay, now cut to the and use promo code Rucker10. That'll get you $10 off. You can get all sorts of stuff. They've got the Jace the Jace packs that come with emergency medications that you could need. They've got prescriptions that you can get. It's all done through telehealth, all shipped directly to you. You don't even have to leave your home. I just got mine. We got ivermectin for the potential for something happening with COVID in the future. We went ahead and loaded up on some extra ivermectin and some pharmaceuticals, some regular prescription drugs that we need, and of course the Jace kit, the Jace case as they call it. Go to jdrucker.com/meds and use promo code Rucker10. So we're going to end today's show with actually a different show, not my show. It's actually the Alex Newman show, or my segment on the Sentinel Report. You can find it over at libertysentinel.org. Fantastic site. We post it very often over at the libertydaily.com. And I did an interview with him, and I will play that, and then I'll give you my thoughts about what we talked about after that. So let's go ahead and play that.
Our guest today, our second guest, is JD Rucker. He's the editor of the libertydaily.com. It's like your one-stop shop for the most important headlines of the day. He's a Christian journalist. He's the owner of a prepper beef company that we really, really like. And he's, again, editor of the Liberty Daily, also the Discern Report. These are two excellent news aggregators. In fact, I go there almost every day to find out what's going on in the world. He goes through all of the crazy news happening, picks out the most important stuff. He's also a partner with Genesis Gold Group, which is a partner of the Sentinel Report. It's a faith-driven precious metals company that we really, really like. He lives in Southern California. Can't imagine why other than the weather. He's got a wife, 4 children, and it's a great honor to have him on. JD Rucker, thank you so much for joining us. Really a pleasure to have you. So the District of Columbia Organic Act of 1871. I mean, I'm hearing about this everywhere I go, and I know you are too. People are telling me that we don't have to obey the laws. We don't have to participate in this system, and yet the courts aren't quite there yet. What can you tell us? What do we need to know?
Well, first and foremost, it's not what it's being sold as. Right now, a lot of people are pushing it out there as, oh, this proves that we're a corporation and that we don't have to obey any of the laws or anything like that. If you actually read it all the way through and don't just listen to somebody on Telegram or something like that, you'll find out that this is about the incorporation of Washington, D.C. itself. This is about bringing together Washington and Georgetown and making them a standalone area where they would have their own municipal government and everything like that. This had nothing to do with U.S. citizenship, U.S. laws, or anything like that. As a matter of fact, it even declares in the document that basically none of this supersedes the Constitution, and that's where people need to focus on. Right now, Alex, a lot of people are really looking for what I like to call hopium or copium, either one, where they're trying to figure out, oh, we got to do something. And I get it. I understand the sentiment, but let's deal with reality here. Let's not jump into pipe dreams.
Yeah, I'm glad that we're talking about this, JD, because I get a lot of really well-intentioned people who mean well, who truly want liberty, and they've watched some YouTube video or they went to some seminar, and now they think they don't need a license plate or a driver's license and all these kinds of things. They call themselves sovereign citizens, and yeah, I wish it were that simple. If it were, I would tell all of you about it. And yet, according to the FBI, not necessarily a reliable source, but they say sovereign citizens, so-called, have been found guilty of threatening judges, threatening law enforcement, impersonating police officers and diplomats, using fake currency, passports, driver's license, engineering various scams. One of them was actually even shot by police in Utah. So a lot of folks out there are telling people that this is all you really need to do to reclaim your freedom. You're not really a U.S. citizen. You're just a state national. I've heard them call it. And again, I wish this were that simple. But JD, what do you say? Is this a way to restore our freedom?
No, not at all. It's an easy button, and it's a false easy button. It's like getting an easy button at Target. You push the button and it says, hey, it's easy, except it doesn't actually do anything. You noted that incident in Utah. Keep in mind, we have to be clear, because I know, as you said, the FBI isn't the most reliable source, but this does go in both directions. Okay, so in other words, you've got, on one hand, you've got the sovereign citizens movement, which are basically their whole thing is, guys, leave us alone. We don't want to have anything to do with you. We leave you alone. You leave us alone. Yada yada yada. Do some of them get violent? Do a lot of them break laws? Absolutely. But then on the other side, you got the FBI and the DOJ saying, "Oh, these guys are domestic terrorists and they're going to bomb any second." What have they actually done? Now, yes, they do break the law when they don't, they use fake license plates, or they do all of these other things, but they're not out there trying to figure out how are we going to take down the government. They're out there trying to figure out how to keep the government from taking them down. And I can appreciate, again, this is the way to go about it. But it's not as if these guys are out there, plotting, riots in the street like Antifa or anything like that. These guys are literally, they're just like, you guys do your thing, we're going to do our thing, and we'll be fine. I'm not defending the movement, but I do understand the sentiment. I understand why they want that. It's just the wrong way of going about it. That's all.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And my friend Joe Wolverton just did a big segment on this over at thenewamerican.com. I tried to kind of ignore it for years, but it just keeps coming up everywhere. And like you said, I know a lot of these people are well-intentioned. They mean well. They're not out there plotting to overthrow the government or burn down our cities like certain other movements might be doing. But, we don't want our viewers, our listeners to get in trouble. We don't want you fighting these battles from behind bars. And we certainly don't want you in trouble with the law. JD, so much news going on. We'll do our news segment later, but I think you just heard Todd Starnes on the program here talking about whether America can be saved. What do you think? Do you agree? Is it too late to save our country, or can we turn this mess around?
Well, this is our country, so whether it's too late or not doesn't matter. They say when you're going through hell, keep going. Todd Starnes is a good friend, and he's fantastic, right? But the question, is it too late? The way that I look at it, the question of whether or not we can fix America it's above my pay grade. God can fix America if he wants it to, and he will use us to do so. And if he doesn't want to, then he won't. Okay. Talk about sovereignty. We have a sovereign God that determines these things. But our job as American citizens is to fight the good fight no matter what. We don't need to know if it's going to work. We need to know what's right. We have the Bible, we have the Constitution, we have the guiding principles that will allow us to rebuild the family structure, that will allow us to take back our rights. We don't need sovereign whatever movements to do this. We have everything that we need. We just need to fight the good fight, continue to make sure the family is, as Todd said, is rebuilt, make sure that the church is doing its job and not getting involved in all this crazy wokeness, and make sure that we as individuals are fully prepared to do what is necessary. Now, does that mean get ready for revolution or civil war? No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is get ready to fight on whatever battleground is necessary, whether that's legal, whether that's out in protest, whether that's just making sure that you have everything that you've got. You mentioned My Patriot Supply, great company. Make sure that you've got everything that you've got to not be beholden to government, because if and when things start to go really south, they're going to use our needs against us. They're going to say, hey, don't worry, FEMA is just a few weeks away. Hang in there, and we're going to be like, oh my gosh, what do we do? What do we do? No, well, you and I won't. We're going to be prepared. And a lot of other Americans will be prepared, but most of Americans are not going to be prepared. And those are the people that are going to be unable to fight. I don't care how patriotic they are. Okay, they can be super patriotic, but if it's the choice between waiting on FEMA to feed their family cricket burgers, or death, they're going to choose that, aligning with FEMA. Unfortunately, that's why I always say make sure that you yourself as an individual and as a family are fully prepared.
Yeah. And you're actually putting your money where your mouth is. I just found out just a couple minutes before we went on the show that you guys even have a promo code for me. You've got survivalbeef.com, americafirstbeef.com, longtermbeef.com. If you use the promo code Alex, you get 25% off your order. So this is really nice beef that can last for a long time in your closet. I'm glad you're working on that. And I love the way you answered the question as well, JD. It's above your pay grade. It's above my pay grade. But ultimately, it doesn't matter if it can or if it can't. We still have to do the things that we have been called to do. And I look back at our founding fathers. They went up against the most powerful military empire in world history. They appealed to heaven. They understood that through the force of their own arms, through the force of their own military organization, they weren't going to win this battle. And they trusted the Lord with the results, as they actually said, trusting in divine providence. They said multiple times. They flew the flag that says appeal to heaven. So, JD, what are some specific things that you recommend to America? Preparedness, I agree, is critical. I mean, we hammer that on the show all the time. Make sure you're doing what you can to preserve your wealth. Make sure you're doing what you can to make sure your family is going to be fed if things get ugly, because I suspect they will get ugly, especially going into 2024. But what do you think we're headed toward, and how do you recommend Americans respond? What are some constructive things people can do to preserve their family, preserve our liberties, preserve the country?
Absolutely. Number one, first and foremost, of course, is always to read your Bible and pray every day. But number two, and this is where we get into, I think, the more of the answer that you're looking for, is to understand and know the Constitution, know what your rights are, and be able to spread that. Number three, and this is a close number three, a lot of people might even put this up there at number two, and that is to localize. The best way to be prepared is to make sure that, forget about going to TikTok and talking to somebody in Singapore. Okay, forget about, and I'm not saying that you disconnect and go offline and don't watch Rumble or don't go to the Liberty Daily. What I'm saying is that be prepared if things go crazy. Okay, you're not going to be able to rely on your constitutional scholar in Scranton if you're sitting there in Phoenix. Okay, you're going to have to rely on the people around you. That means friends and family. Localizing everything as much as you can, whether it's your food purchases, your pharmaceutical needs, everything. Okay, forget about this globalization or even the nationalization of everything. Try to shrink everything down to local, because what they're going to do when the whoever it is, the globalist elite cabal, the uniparty swamp, the demons, whoever it is that's going to be persecuting us in the not so distant future, they're going to rely on people not having access to things, whether it is food, water, medicines, energy, anything like that. So you have to try to localize it as much as possible. Make it to where, you can actually look to your neighbors, look to your friends, be a resource to them as well. But the number one piece of advice that I tell everybody, and this affects probably, I don't even know what the percentage is, probably 60% of Americans, the best advice I could give you is get out of the cities. I'm a hypocrite. I live in a city in Southern California. You have no idea why. I am kind of stuck here. Okay, granted, I because of a certain familial medical situation, there's literally one doctor in America that can do what I need him to do. And so I think God played that trick on me and kind of forced me to stay here, at least for the time being. Eventually, I will be in Idaho or Montana or whatever. But if you do live in a city,
or refugees,
if you can, move out, get out of the cities. Okay, get out of the suburbs. Everybody has their different needs. Okay, so there's different degrees of I guess you could say agrarian lifestyle that people can afford and that people can get into. Find whatever the furthest from the city that you can get, go there. Okay, if that means the suburbs, great. If that means out in a farm and a homestead, awesome. If that means a bunker somewhere in an undisclosed location that only you and your family knows about, great. But you don't want to be in the middle of Dallas or New York City if and when the crap hits the fan.
Yeah, amen. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I've been urging people to do it for a while. And sorry, you got to be stuck in Southern California. I was actually just there last week, and you guys have some really nice weather, JD. But man, the communism is just overpowering. And I would add one thing to your list, and that is staying well informed, folks. And one of the places you can do that is thelibertydaily.com. JD does a fantastic job of picking the best and most important news items. He often links to libertysentinel.org, so we appreciate that very much. JD, you do a lot of different things. In fact, I can't imagine how you find time to do all of them and do them well. But tell the folks how they can follow you, your excellent work, other than thelibertydaily.com.
I always say the best way people can ever reach me, contact me, see what I'm thinking is X. I'm not a huge fan of X, but because they have open DMs and because it's easy for me to manage, that's the easiest way to get in contact with me. I don't post nearly enough there, but yeah, if you want to talk to me, open DMs. I don't have to be following you for you to reach out to me. Just go to X and it's /JD Rucker, twitter.com/JD Rucker. And yeah, let's talk.
Hey, I really appreciate it, JD. Thank you. You're doing excellent work on so many fronts. We are so grateful for all that you do to keep Americans well informed. I know you've got massive traffic at your website. So thank you. Folks, go follow him on X. You will not be disappointed. And JD, thank you very much for joining us. Thanks for all you do for our country. God bless you, sir. And I hope we can get you back soon.
God bless you, your team, and your audience as well, Alex.
Thank you so much, JD.
So yeah, Alex is wicked smart. He's the type of guy that I almost don't want to do interviews with him because he knows more than me about pretty much everything in the world. But he's a blessing to have as a friend. He's a blessing to have as a show host. You can find his stuff over at libertysentinel.org. You can find him on frankspeech.com. They're putting together a great lineup over there, by the way. Just as a quick side note before I break down what I was telling Alex. They've got Bannon. They've got including an exclusive show. I don't know how many people knew this. There is one of Bannon's hours is actually exclusive to Frank Speech. Like, it's not on Real America's Voice or any of the other places he's on. He's got a full hour there over at Frank Speech that's just on Frank Speech. So check it out. Emerald Robinson, Jim Hoft, Silk. They've got some great people over there, and I was actually impressed. I remember when Lou Dobbs. I forgot about him, and of course Mike Lindell himself. I remember when when it first got started. I don't know about this, but they have over the last couple of years been able to put together a tremendous lineup of talent, including Alex Newman. Good stuff there. So talking to Alex is always fun. Talking specific, I can't believe. Wow, my phone didn't go off this entire time, and I've had the ringer on. What are the chances of that? Good stuff. I'll go ahead and turn the ringer off now while we're here. The idea of the sovereign citizen movement, I get it. I understand. I called it hopium or copium or whatever, but in reality, we are just as a nation, as a people, we are searching for hope. And when we see the tyrannical government the way that it is, when we see not just the Biden-Harris regime, but also the deep state, the bureaucratic state, the nanny state, when we see the various states themselves. Look, I'm out here in California, okay, or as we like to call it over at the Liberty Daily, California. I'm stuck here for a bit. Lord willing, I will be able to move out sometime in the near future. But for right now, we are circumstantially stuck. So I get to deal with all of the shenanigans that's happening here. Praise God, I do live in a nice military area, so it's not like we have to deal with what they're dealing with in San Francisco or the heart of LA. But there have been times. Look, I had to live with my wife in East Hollywood for like 3 months. Talk about scary. Okay, I was living in Adam Schiff's district. And when I say living, we were living in a hotel because my son was in the children's hospital there. But being there for 3 months, number one, the food's great, but it is otherwise bad. Point being is this. Sorry, I'll tell you that story some other day. But the point is this: is that I understand people are looking for some way to fight back, some way to defend themselves, and the sovereign citizens movement, while the premise behind it is righteous. I get it, okay? But we have to deal with reality. And reality means that we have to do two things. Number one, we have to stay within the law, okay? And whether we disagree with the law or not, we still have to abide by that law, unless it's unconstitutional. That's a whole other discussion. But I mean, we can still fight laws, but we fight laws through lawmakers. We fight laws through protests, through ballot initiatives. We find ways to make it to where if something is bad, if something isn't right in our nation, then we, even as individuals, do have the power to organize and create change. That's what we've got to focus on. But with that said, it can still be challenging knowing that we are facing very powerful people. And in many cases, it's not just people. I do believe in the idea from Ephesians 6:12 that we're not just contending with flesh and blood, that we're facing powers, principalities, the people that are in charge of the darkness. And again, not necessarily people. These are, in many cases, I do believe, minions of Satan. Maybe people are starting to wake up and see that they have black eyes or whatever. Who knows? I mean, there's a lot of possible scenarios. So latching on to hope, we search for any way that we can express ourselves, we can hold on to our freedoms. I get it. The best way to do that, and arguably the only way to do it the right way, is by embracing the gospel, by accepting Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, as your Lord and Savior. And if you do that, then whatever else they do to you in this world won't matter. As a matter of fact, you should even hope, against hope, to be a martyr. Lord willing, I will be back very soon with another episode. But in the meantime, you all stay strong, stay safe, and God bless.